I'm Jeremy Greer.
I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast that sometimes checks in on what's happening in the MCU. Gary, how are you doing today, my friend?
You know, I've been a lot better.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Yeah. Good to know.
You know,
all right.
Doing my best. I'm trying to hang on here.
How much is the recent glut of Marvel Cinematic Universe material doing? What is it doing for your day-to-day? Is it making you happy? Like, I've been really, between WandaVision and this, I've been actually, like, my Friday nights are usually pretty cool. Like, I like watching a big Marvel thing on Friday nights. I think it's fun.
Yeah. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the other shows that are coming as well. Probably Loki most of all. Like, Loki looks really cool.
Yeah.
Very excited for that. Yeah, I'm generally pretty jazzed for that stuff. You know me, huge Eternals head.
Yep.
You know,
we talk about it all the time on the podcast.
Yeah, well, we cut out most of it out because it's not about the X-Men, but me and Jeremy, huge Eternal heads.
Yeah. If you haven't been listening to the end of the podcast where I put all of our outtakes about the Eternals, you're really missing out.
I am trying to summon up the strength to read like a single fucking Eternals comic in order to have any context for what that movie might be about, because I'll probably see it. Like at this point, you know, it seems like I'm fairly invested and I like the other stuff that they're doing. You know, it's happening. All looks like pretty cool. Really excited. Dr. Octopus is coming back as Albert Molina. Spider-Man movies. I think that's awesome.
Yep.
You know, very excited by all that stuff. So it's like, I should probably watch Eternals. Like it'll have some kind of connection to the other things, even if it's really minor. But it's very hard to be interested.
It's weird.
I also,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, like, it's, like the word on the street is that like people watching early cuts of that are like, oh my God, this is so much better than I thought it would be. Like, this is something really, really special. And I'm like, I just don't believe you. I just don't. Yes. I don't. There's too much star power in that movie. Like, you can't have Angelina Jolie and like all of these other characters sharing the screen at the same time and not have it feel chaotic, I think. And I don't know. Like, I just like the whole, like, it's going to span 1,000 years or some shit. Like, is it fucking Dune? And I am ready to be completely blown away by that movie if it happens. And I'll definitely watch it. Like, I'm here for it. But like, I've been doing the same thing because I get Facebook ads for Marvel Unlimited all the time, which, you know, hey, Facebook, thanks. I already have it.
You got me, man.
But the thing that they're pushing the most, I guess, I don't know if there's a new series or if they just like collected some stuff and it's like, find out what the Eternals is before the movie comes out. And I'm like, Do I have to?
That's such a funny selling point.
Yeah.
Like, learn what this even fucking is.
Yeah.
Hey, kids, you've never heard of this.
Imagine if Toyota did this. It was like, read the comic book about the Prius before it hits the streets.
It's like, learn about what cars are before you buy one.
Yeah. Have you ever been curious about the Denver Broncos? Read these comic books.
I'm like, very funny. Unlike that, the segue I was gonna make is that I also my friend Derek watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier on my recommendation, and he said, well, they managed to make the two most boring Avengers cool. And I was like, I don't know if I think they're the two most boring Avengers, but also like they did. Like, this is the most invested I've been in either of those characters. You know,
it's strange because so first off, let's say this right out. Like, we're going to be talking about everything that's currently out there in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So if you're not caught up on all of WandaVision, all of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, all of the movies, all of that stuff, we're going to be talking about all of that without saying the word spoiler.
It's all
warning.
on the table.
Yeah. So
I don't think that we're going to talk too much about the Hulk movie.
No. But if something comes up, I will mention it. So that said, like, me and Autumn have been going back through and watching from the start all of the MCU movies. So we just got finished watching Avengers. But like before that, like, I had already started. So like, she jumped in and we went through all the way through Endgame. But like, if you watch Civil War, they're actually like really funny. Like the duo of Sam and Bucky in Civil War, it starts there, and it's exactly what we get in this. Like, the same vibe.
Yeah.
Like, I think so. When you say like the most boring Avengers, like, I feel like Bucky's story is actually really interesting in that universe. Like, every place that he has been kind of cool. Sam is just like a guy, like a guy's Avenger, right? Like, he's just around,
a good dude.
Yeah. But like, also, like, it's wild to me that Sam was in the military. Like, that's the reason he had wings, right? Like, he was like, he came pre-powered, basically. Like, not powered, but like, he had cool gadgets that he was fucking around with before he joined the Avengers. So I don't know, man. I kind of hard disagree on the most boring Avengers. Like, I don't know who I would pick.
Who are you gonna throw as the most? Who's the most boring?
Hawkeye, easily. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it,
Yeah.
there's no characterization to him besides, oops, I have a family. So
yeah, they don't do a good job with him in the movies. I'm looking forward to the series with him.
Yes,
because I like the daughter Hawkeye, and because it's setting up young Avengers.
Also, that's not going to be his daughter.
Yeah. So. Yeah. The thing that I think that I had reluctance about Bucky is that he was such like a weird plot coupon in Civil War that drove me nuts.
Okay.
Because like I love Civil War. It's like one of my favorites of the series. I think it's like the most fun action that the series has ever gotten.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the pathos stuff with Iron Man is really cool. I have a hard time with that movie because I feel like everyone kind of acts like an idiot.
Yeah.
And Steve could just be like, no, you killed a lot of people, Winter Soldier. You do have to come in.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like Captain America would be like, okay, we're going to go on the lam and just kill more people. Like, he's going to kill a bunch of people in his escape. He's going to kill a lot of people in his apartment. And I'm just cool with that. It just felt weird for Captain America to be it. And that's the context he mostly has lived in. And he didn't get a lot of stuff in Infinity War and Endgame.
No.
He came back. He's like in a couple fight scenes, but he doesn't get very much in terms of like characterization. So that's kind of where my sense memory of Winter Soldier left off. And Falcon just kind of didn't get used very much at all previous to this.
Yeah.
Like, he's always been kind of a background character.
Again, it's all just like
mostly
Civil War. It's like it's the fight scene between the two of them and Spider-Man, right? Like, and the can you move your seat up routine. Like, there's not a lot of it, but I just, like, compared to Hawkeye and regrettably Black Widow, like, there's just like, I feel like they are at least more interesting on the screen than the other two.
Yeah. I mean, and this thing kind of converted me like a little bit into liking them a lot more. The Winter Soldier was always a little bit bothersome to me because I just kind of felt like he got off light, during everything. Mm-hmm. But this ends up making me like him and make him make more sense.
Sure.
And a good place, I was thinking of like a good way to structure this conversation would be kind of like, instead of episodes, talk about elements.
Yeah, absolutely.
So talking about the two main dudes is a good place to start.
Yeah. I think
how fucking charismatic is
Anthony Mackie,
the Falcon.
Yeah.
Anthony Mackie in this. Jesus Christ.
Extremely charming, as all men from Louisiana are, I think. I did not know. I knew that Anthony Mackie was from Louisiana. I did not know that they had made it like canon that he was from Louisiana in the universe. I don't know if that was mentioned anywhere else. So it was pretty cool to see that.
In the comics, he's from Harlem.
Yeah.
So they changed it pretty drastically.
But yeah, absolutely. Like, I think him and Sebastian Stan are both extremely charming on screen, and they both have that like buddy cop energy that people were really, really going for. That I think people really wanted from this. And they come out swinging with that stuff. Like we're going to get into that pretty quick in the episodes. The thing that I thought was when it started, like the very first episode, the thing that like really appealed to me was the idea of them carrying, like dealing with the consequences of the blip, of having to deal with like people not having homes. It was all the stuff that I think people talked about since the events of Endgame, of like, oh shit, they brought the people back, but like, what if you get brought back in midair?
How the hell do you do that?
But like, what is the consequences of all that? And actually, like, having this fucking world crisis makes perfect sense, right? Like, this is the kind of shit that you can't punch to make right.
Yeah. It's an appropriate level for these characters too, because they're both like government related. You know, you're not going to get like Captain Marvel to come down here and deal with, you know, terrorism and repatriation and shit. Like it ends up making sense for this level. And I ended up like throughout the series wanting a lot more of that.
Me too.
I felt like, so there's a weird thing with the primary antagonists of this, where it's like they want open borders. They also thought things were better during the blip, and they're really stodgy with relevant detail about that. Like, I think it's like episode 4 or something, when one of the characters is like, yeah, there was enough room for us and everything, and we've been displaced because people came back and took our homes that we had. Like, they actually lay it out really kind of late in the series.
Yes.
And it like, I think that we should have been shown that. You know, like, what if the opening of the series was like somebody being evicted once the blip, you know, came back? Something like that. Like, just give us a little bit more of that background. It ends up making the primary antagonist of this, the Flag Smashers, be a little underwhelming to me. Like, it's my least favorite part of the series. I don't think they work very well.
It's
personally,
it's interesting because like the villains as presented on the screen, the Flag Smashers, like you kind of like watching it, you kind of want to root for them, right? And I think that they play with some of it when Sam meets Carly. Thank you. I was about to say, I didn't even make the impression so I could remember her name, but if, like, gets face to face with Carly and like is having the conversation and like kind of uses her own logic against her a little bit, to the point she gets frustrated because like she's a young naive kid, not realizing that like, hey, there's better ways to do this. This is just the most direct way. Like, but you're doing this wrong. And I thought that was really interesting. But like,
that was awesome.
The stuff around that stuff, like like there's so much weird, like just not dichotomies, but like such a weird split in some of the stuff that happens, because like Sam is poor, like he doesn't have any money. But like the very first thing that we see him do is running missions for the fucking military. And I'm like, you don't get a military, like, pay, like every guy I know in the military is fucking moneyed up. Like, they're driving huge, obnoxious trucks. Like, why aren't you sending cash back to your sister? Like,
who is paying the Winter Soldier?
Who's paying for the Winter Soldier to do anything? Yeah.
The good thing is ARM requires no upkeep. It's that scene is great because it's showing, you know, like Sam started as a counselor. You know, that's how Steve met him. That's really cool. And we'll talk about U.S. Agent. We'll talk about Walker, and Walker fucks it up, which I love. Like, that's a really cool, dramatic thing to have happen. It just ends up not, like, Carly is just weird during it because she's susceptible to Sam's logic, but also is like cool with killing a bunch of innocent people.
Yes.
Like, they do not make her very consistent in terms of her characterization. And I was thinking, like, people who thought it was better during the blip, like, these people should be like Thanos acolytes or something.
Yeah.
I know that's not a Captain America villain, but like, why is Thanos never the person who did the blip? Like, this is the argument Thanos was making, right? Like, it's going to be better off for these people because there'll be enough resources for everybody. And the name isn't even mentioned. Like, nobody talks about it from a philosophical standpoint. You know, they just kind of map it onto real world issues, and you know, weave in other issues, some more successfully than others. You know, like, I actually like the way that the series handles race. Take that with a huge, big white dude grain of salt, but I like it. I think it's a little bit weirder how it deals with stuff with like class and scarcity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's going to be like a Marvel problem going forward, right? Like I don't know that they're equipped to talk about some of that stuff. We get into some of it when we see, Sam trying to get a loan, and they're like, well, actually, you don't have any income. And I'm like, which drove me crazy throughout the whole thing, because I'm like, he's a fucking superhero and he works in the military. Like, you guys gave me a loan for $150,000 when I was 24 years old. Like, give Sam some money.
You guys are constantly giving kids 9 CDs for 1 penny.
Oh, that's the problem. He went to Columbia House and not Chase Bank.
Yeah.
Okay, well that makes a little bit more sense.
From Columbia House. Yeah.
But yeah, the race stuff I think is really interesting. I've gotten really big into, and I know how this is going to make me sound, especially as a 40-year-old dude. But there's like 2 or 3 people on TikTok that are hard up into MCU lore. And they really kicked off during WandaVision, where like they were picking apart everything. And one of them is this black guy. I think his name is Straw Hat Goofy on TikTok. That dude, when towards the end, when they had the conversation with Isaiah, and Isaiah tells Sam like they'll never accept a black Captain America, he made this video like literally weeping, because he had been talking about the themes of race throughout the series, and like literally being called the N-word in his DMs, and people telling him that he was grasping at straws, not everything is about race and all this. And he was like, fuck all y'all. Like, this is what I've been saying. They are directly dealing with this.
Yeah.
And I was shocked that they went as far as they did on the race stuff. Like, absolutely shocked. Like, it blew my mind. Like, I didn't think that like Disney would let them do this, right? Like, I was so shocked that they would like be willing to play in these areas at all. And I have some like issues with the ending, especially Sam's like pat speech at the end. I felt like the whole last episode kind of wrapped up things in a neat little bow in a way that I didn't like. I wanted it to be kind of messy, but at the same time, like all of the stuff leading up to that was so fucking good. The whole Isaiah Bradley thing was just amazing to me.
Yeah, Isaiah Bradley stuff is really, really good. That's a wonderful performance. I totally agree with that. Like, him kind of just like wrapping up race in that suit is not. MCU haters are going to make fun of us for liking stuff that we like. It's just what's going to happen. I'm not saying this is a nuanced and really, really deep portrayal of race, but I'm judging on the sliding scale of the studio that brought us Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's really, like you said, like Disney let them do it, and they go further than you would expect for the context it's in. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying, like, at no point am I being like, yeah, this is, the equivalent of, a W. Kamau Bell TV show, like in terms of talking about race. Yeah. Like, no, but it's real, it is a cool thing, I think, for kids to see a black Captain America explaining, to a bunch of rich white people that they should be more worried about, what like economic crimes have economic causes.
Yes.
People who are stealing things like this, like, what if you tried to understand them for a second? That's badass.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm very happy to have that happen, and then like on Twitter, you see tons of little black kids dressed up as Captain America. It's like the sweetest thing in the fucking world. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is very heartening. It's like when Into the Spider-Verse came out.
Exactly. Representation matters. Like, right? Like, as easy as that could be used as a catchphrase, but like literally sometimes it's just as easy as putting a black person in a suit that we know. And putting an A on his chest or whatever, like that stuff, or a star on his chest in this case, like that stuff really is really important. And then just
giving him a costume that makes him look like a Dallas cheerleader.
Yeah, apparently a lot of people really like this costume, and I like, Jesus fucking Christ. I don't know if you saw, like, I made a joke on Twitter about, because the dude was from Louisiana, and I was like, it should be purple and gold or black and gold. Dude should be either LSU or Saints. Like, I guarantee you, like, there's no way that suit would have been designed with those colors if he had chosen the colors. And then somebody on Twitter was like, I guess you're not familiar with the comics, because that's a comic accurate suit. And I'm like, I guess you're not familiar with what a fucking joke is, you idiot. Like, Jesus Christ, get off my dick. I ended up not liking the suit. I thought the suit looked very, very goofy. And
it's real busy.
And then it's kind of a direct adaptation of, or a direct copy of what's he wears in the comics, which I also didn't like that much when I read those few issues. Yeah. So,
well, and the MCU doesn't really do that usually.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why it stands out, is because it's so. And I understand, the series is messing around with themes of Captain America as a symbol, so having him be very brightly colored and really stand out is something they're going to want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think it's a great costume personally. And to me, it robbed some of the gravitas from that scene. Yes. Whenever people are in like MCU superhero outfits, just like standing around talking to people who are wearing regular ass clothes,
it's always
like
goofy.
the silliest shit that's ever been.
Yeah, it's always kind of goofy. I will say that we're kind of all over the place. So like, obviously not doing this in any kind of order, but when he, number one, like all of the fight scenes throughout this whole thing, I thought were like 100% great.
Yeah.
Some of the best fighting that we've seen throughout the series. We've got a mixture of super soldiers and Bucky and like, the Wakandans show up at one point and that's all fucking badass.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, dude, like as much as I was like disappointed in the reveal of the suit, him with the shield flying through the air and doing all that shit was so fucking cool. Like that, all of that was really awesome. Like, don't even care how believable it is. I don't care what the physics of the shield are. I don't care that it absorbs kinetic energy instead of expending it. I don't care about any of the science whatsoever. That dude went through a fucking helicopter. That's all I'm here for.
Yeah. It looks amazing. Well, one of the things that is like a big advantage of having these as movies, one of the things about the MCU is seeing things that you read in comics and seeing them realized, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like this was a big thing pre-MCU. I remember watching the beginning of X-Men 2 where Nightcrawler takes the White House, and I'm like, this is what like Nightcrawler would be capable of.
Yeah.
This is what this would look like in real life. And it was such an amazing fucking thing to see. This does that for the Falcon, who on the page, like when you read comics with the Falcon, like he does a lot of reconnaissance. Like he flies over people a lot and says what's going on. This is whoever did the fight choreography for that character, and having him contrast with the way that Bucky fights in this, I think is just like really great, fight choreography. Just incredibly cool looking stuff.
Well, and especially with the difference of like everybody that he's fighting as a super soldier has the super soldier serum, and he doesn't. Like he's still just a normal dude. So like there's times when he's fighting Carly at the end and she like slams her fist into the shield and he uses his wings to brace him from sliding back so that he can still fight. Like
that's just super cool.
It's like characterization, like through a choreographed fight scene, which is like the best fight scenes, right? Like that's how that shit should go.
Yeah.
So that stuff was always like 100, like always at 100 for me. I loved it.
Yeah, that stuff is really, really good. So and I'm going to say, as far as from an action perspective, it's pretty impeccable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As an action show, like I know that's a not the most important thing in the world, but there's not very much I would do different in terms of how this series handles action. Like I think this is a really competent action TV show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was like throughout I thought the plotting was really good. I thought, other than and again, this always comes back with Marvel, like their villains, they're just not great at villains for some reason. Like a lot of the villains that we're dealing with just weren't great. So like we have the Flag Smashers, which are, a group of people that were given the super serum by Power Broker, and then like rebelled against the Power Broker to go, free borders or whatever, and we're fighting for quote unquote a good cause, but like
if they have time, Barnes and Noble.
Yeah. But and then we have Power Broker, which is like scary figure that turns out to be Sharon Carter, which was broadcast from like the second episode or something. Have you heard?
Yeah.
Have you seen the how you find villains in movie things nowadays? Have you seen this with the Apple iPhones?
No.
Apparently, it's a thing. So, like, if you use Apple products in a film, they won't let you. They want the villains to use Apple products. So, like, Sharon didn't have an iPhone and Sam did, and apparently, like, and I don't remember Knives Out that well, but like the killer that was in Knives Out, like, was the only person that wasn't using an iPhone the entire time.
That's incredible. I never heard of that. That's amazing.
Yeah, so it just broke every single mystery movie for you ever. Congratulations.
Well, shit. The Sharon Carter stuff, the Power Broker stuff, was the other big thing that didn't work.
Yeah.
For me in this, I thought the reveal was kind of a wet thud. And the last time I saw Sharon Carter, like she was like a Captain America love interest and seemed, like solidly chaotic good.
Mm-hmm.
Like she'd broken them out of, they stole the shield, broken Sam and Cap out of jail, but not like this kind of crime lord supervillain. And I get that there's been a blip. She's had time to develop, but her being the kingpin of Madripoor felt weird to me.
Yeah.
Even though they signposted it, I was just like, doesn't feel like the same character to me.
I mean, I need more of and they're like, the stinger at the end of the series was her walking out being like, hey, get the crew together. We're going to have access to a bunch of crazy new tech or whatever. So like Thunderbolt 2 or whatever. But like, yeah. I need more of an explanation of, like, I've seen people speculate that maybe she's always been a double agent for S.H.I.E.L.D., like even when she was like camping out next to Captain America. But like the idea that Peggy Carter's great niece or whatever like flipped to, if not Hydra, then like evil, like I need to know why for any of that stuff to really work for me. Because in this one she was like, I'll help you with surprisingly robust resources in Madripoor, and then sending French assassins after Sam, which like why would you want to kill Sam? Like, you guys seem to be bros. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of it didn't make sense to me. I like that she was there. I was hoping that she would be like the third in the trio. That's what I was really hoping for when I knew that she was going to be in the show, and I was kind of disappointed that she wasn't.
She's for like a brief time.
Yeah.
Like during that episode. But yeah, I don't think that works particularly well and didn't have enough runway set for it. The real third from the trio we end up getting is Zemo. This stuff worked for me pretty well. I like that actor. I like that performance. I like that he is like a villain with a code. I like the Thunderbolts, so I want to see the Thunderbolts property, like the TV show or movie about the Thunderbolts, I think are cool.
Yeah.
So that is exciting to me. And I also think he got like a bunch of the best like lines and like little performance beats.
Absolutely.
Like that dude is funny and good.
The Marvel YouTube account put out a 1-hour video of him doing his little dance in Madripoor to some sort of, weird music or whatever. And I think that's just like the funniest thing ever. Like that's peak internet nowadays. So
super cute.
I thought Zemo's performance in this, and I thought his weird ethical line of like, I am ruthless about this one particular subject. Like we can't have superhumans and humans mixing. Like I think that just the absolute ruthlessness with which he pursued that was really interesting. And it kind of made me, and again, like I watched Civil War before this was ever a thing, and now that me and Autumn are going back through them again, like I'll watch it again. But like I wish that had almost been explored even more in Civil War, because we spent a lot of time like smashing action figures together and not really understanding what Zemo is trying to accomplish because they wanted to keep it a mystery.
It feels like with him and Sharon Carter, who are characters who their last big scenes were in Civil War, both of which end up taking characterization changes that weren't laid track for. It's just this one I like. Like, I think this is a more interesting version of Zemo and a less interesting version of Sharon Carter.
Yeah.
Not less interesting. Like, I just didn't think Sharon Carter was that interesting in the first place.
Sure. Yeah.
Personally, and like, this felt harder to believe than Zemo being like, yeah, I had a reason for the stuff that I did. That ends up, working for me pretty well. And the idea of just like the enemy of my enemy, like, him, breaking the rules like constantly, but just knowing that they need him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to shoot the guy who invented the super serum. I don't want more super serum, like, fuck it.
And then when
like, I'm going to do it because hear music, I'm going to dance.
And when he gets the opportunity to like, presumably take the super serum himself, like he's staring at 7 or 8 vials, like following through on his conviction and just crushing them. Like that's really strong to me. Like that, I expected the obvious villain turn of like, oh, if I take the super serum, then I will be the last person that could kill all the other super soldiers. Like that'll be my thing. But I was so happy when he didn't. Instead, he just crushed it. Like, again, just seeing through that conviction of his beliefs was really powerful to me. I thought that was really interesting.
Makes a more interesting villain.
Yeah, exactly.
If he's got something. And that's part of what makes the Sharon Carter stuff kind of suck.
Yes.
Because what's her motivation?
I know who
she likes
knows?
Power.
Yeah, like nope.
The power haver, the power taker. And the power enjoyer. The
Zemo connection obviously got. We were able to bring the Wakandans in to try to track him down, and I thought that was a lot of fun. And so he's off in Wakanda now. So like I want to see that. Like I hope he shows up in Black Panther 2.
Well, he goes to the raft. Like the Wakandans take him to the raft.
They take him to the raft. That's right. I forgot.
Yeah. Which makes me think like New Avengers, when that popped out, that was with a raft breakout. If they end up rebooting the Avengers, I could see that being how they do it.
Yeah.
Like they start rounding people up for the raft during this phase and then do a breakout and then like have introduce that set of Avengers with like Wolverine and Spider-Man and Luke Cage and shit. I don't think that you're as warm on it as I am. The shitty Captain America is my favorite part of this. the Walker stuff, which like he's really obnoxious. Like you look at him, you're like, what a fucking asshole. But I love that performance very, very much. I love this dude who is not evil. He's just kind of shitty in the way that the military made him, and he does not know how to be a Captain America. Contrasted with Sam, I really, really like that performance. Like there's a part where he talks about where he's talking to his sidekick, and his sidekick is like, you don't need the super serum, man. You have 3 medals of honor. And he goes, yeah, I got those for the worst day of my fucking life.
Yeah.
That was the most traumatic thing I've ever done. And that to me was saying stuff about, soldierdom and heroism and, the military. That is like the cool thing that the Captain America movies fuck around with. Yeah, I have these medals and that made me a good poster boy. That sucked. That was not okay as a thing.
I thought they did an absolutely amazing job with this dude. My only complaint was the stuff that happens in the last episode where he has like a vague redemption arc where he's going to save the people or whatever. Like, and you got to do that because like he's going to be U.S. agent or whatever. But also like he murdered someone on not live TV, but like live in front of so many cameras.
Live TV now.
Yeah, exactly. But like he straight up fucking decapitated some dude with a shield, and he got like reprimanded, but he didn't go to jail. But I thought that the dude himself, the actor, did just a fucking phenomenal job of walking that line between just like as soon as you saw him, you wanted to punch him in his face. Like they couldn't have cast a better guy for that. And then to have that weird thing where like, oh no, he's been in the military. Like he's it was just a wonderful performance by this dude. Like, and when he gets the super serum and he rages out and you see like how that Autumn kind of called this, like he was the guy from Captain America, the First Avenger, the movie, that like didn't jump on the grenade when Steve Rogers did, right? Like he was that guy. And it was the perfect dichotomy because that's what fucking Tommy Lee Jones wanted, is the guy that, he wanted one of those super strong dudes. He wanted a military guy. But the other guy was like, no, we need someone with a super strong heart. And like, I think that was just played so fucking perfectly. Like the contrast between that. And I absolutely loved it. The fact that he's like going to be like some hapless, like, oh, thanks for the new suit, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. It was really weird. The ending was very strangely toned. Yeah. But otherwise, like, I thought the performance, I thought the characterization was great. I thought him losing his temper when his friend Blockbuster died. I don't even remember that guy's name.
Yeah, Battlestar, who was one of the replacement Buckies.
Wild.
Apparently, in the comics, Captain America had a bunch of replacement Buckies.
You got to have a Bucky.
One of the Buckies.
Like,
always got to have a Bucky.
It's like Bioshock Infinite. There's always a shield. There's always a Bucky. It's always a lighthouse.
Yeah, there's always a Bucky. His the kind of like the performance that guy gives as like a guy who's very punchable but isn't evil.
Yeah.
There's a moment where he's talking to Sam where he's trying to convince Sam. And at the end, he's like, and I'd probably go over a lot better if I had the Captain America's buddy, the Falcon, with me. And where Sam's like, it's always the last sentence. Like, you can't quit before the last sentence.
Yeah.
And I thought that would like summed him up really well. Like, yeah, you just, and it ended up being a really interesting thing in the show about what happens. Like, one of the big themes that's trying to explore is like, what power is the title, versus who embodies it? Like, where does the power come from? Right. It's not enough just to have like a cap. It's about the person under it. And this is what happens when you have somebody who's inappropriate for that, who believes that they're not inappropriate for it, which is like the scariest, worst thing.
Yeah.
And the moment where he snaps and he like cuts off the head of the guy is like, really, really one of the only like cool, very like shocking things that happened in the series to me. I was like way into it. And then later in the end, when Carly comes up and she's like, I'm sorry I killed your friend. We try not to kill people who don't matter, which is like, what a horrible fucking thing to say.
Dude. Yeah. In a variety of ways. Like that gets so close to the all lives matter routine, right? Like,
exactly.
And
like
it plays so close in that
simultaneously, simultaneously good characterization for Walker and shitty characterization for her.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, like the villain problem in this stuff, like, and I think that WandaVision was guilty of it too. Like, Agatha Harkness was really interesting up until the point where she was like, haha, I want your power. And it became a lot more lame.
Power is the worst motivation.
Exactly. Yeah. It almost always is. But really, like overall, like it's weird because this followed WandaVision, which was so like crazy unique, and I was so worried about this being just kind of. I mean, you joked about it of like, oh, is like Sam going to be chasing fucking drug runners or whatever? And it wasn't that, but like it wasn't as like that intense week to week drive wasn't as much there. But when I look back at it, like I was kind of more interested in the stuff that was happening in Falcon and the Winter Soldier than I was in WandaVision. Like in retrospect, like the stuff that happened,
it's less surprising.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but once you know what it is, it just ends up feeling like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it feels like, you know, Captain America 3.5 or something. Which is fine because those are like one of the strongest struts in that film franchise. And it's one of those things where the conventionality of it, I think is actually kind of a strength.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they had just been like, all of our Marvel shows are going to be weird fucking genre twist. Here's the sitcom one. Loki's going to do Quantum Leap. Falcon and the Winter Soldier are going to be like Turner and Hooch, you know, or something like that. Like that would feel really weird. Like them doing a straight putt makes me value the stuff that's more experimental when it pops up.
Sure.
And if they had started more experimental, I would have had some feelings about it because WandaVision started that way and then turned into people blasting each other in the sky. You know?
Yeah.
I would just think that like, oh, this is going to start as experimental and ambitious and then just turn into MCU. And we'd have to have that discourse again, as opposed to this just starting as MCU and finishing as MCU and being for people who like dig that.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I do want to say, like a couple of my highlights of the entire series was Sam visiting home, and not just because of the Louisiana connection, but just because I think, you know, having that family connection, you know, having that relationship, right, and having Sam realize that he should probably be paying more attention to that than the superhero business that he was previously doing. Inviting Bucky to the cookout in the last episode and everybody partying and having Bucky help him, you know, fix up the family boat and all that stuff. It's so wholesome and it feels so good. I think one of the only good Hawkeye moments in the entire MCU so far has been when you visit his family. And like 90% of that is because I'm kind of have a crush on Linda Cardellini, but it's the only time that he's like, not just a glowering face with a bow. It's, you know, you get some sense that he's a real person, and you get that with Bucky also in his, you know, quest to make things right that he's kind of wrongly going through until Sam calls him on it. It's like, no, you're not making things right.
Making amends.
Yeah.
You're avenging. Like you're doing Avenger shit. Like that's a great moment.
Absolutely.
You know, that's a really good, that's up there for me as well. In this, I like the hominess, the feeling of this as well. All the family stuff is very sweet. And it was interesting because they're doing a context for this character that they don't do very often for the other characters, you know, kind of by necessity. Like Hulk is a loner, Captain America is a man out of time, Thor is an Asgardian, like Iron Man also kind of a loner and lives a totally different lifestyle. This kind of like man on the street, like what is a real person like with this power and in this context is neat. You know, it's a little different than Spider-Man, like who always traditionally kind of fucks around with that, having a real life because he's a kid.
Yeah.
You know, this is just an adult who happens to be Captain America.
Yeah.
Really cool. I'm super excited for Young Avengers shit. I think that them like introducing all the Young Avengers through these series and things is very cool and clever. I forgot that Cassie Lang is all over the Ant-Man movies. So, you know, we got Stature, one of the worst names for any character.
I know. And that's my girl from Supernatural too. So I got a special interest in her. So
hell yeah. The stuff, I'm really happy that they didn't have Patriot make a debut. Like they did the Isaiah Bradley stuff, but didn't have like the grandson be like, I can help or something. You know, save that. Just let people who know what's coming know what's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And like having him there to watch the interaction between his grandfather and the current Captain America and seeing those kind of relationships develop in front of him, like having that character there witnessing it without like making it the whole origin story, making it a whole thing is it's surprising to me that, again, I think Kevin Feige has really tried to figure out how to do these origin stories and to slowly fold things in over the course of multiple series and movies. And that's what like kind of gets me so jazzed about the future of the MCU is like they're getting so much better at this. Like, The Avengers wasn't a good movie because like all of those that movie has a great, like it's a great character showcase. It's not that at all. It's like a bunch of people that from previous movies that have had these great character moments all doing cool shit on screen. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, it's being able to build up that stuff over time is so important. And like casually introducing, Cassie Lang, or casually introducing the Wanda twins, or casually introducing Patriot. Like we're getting all of these people, and I can't wait because I feel like it's gonna blow people's minds to when they start getting outfits and start putting teams together, and like it's gonna make real, especially now that they're actually like allowing the rest of the world to be explored. Because like the idea, again, going back to that, like this global repatriation society, who after the blip, like the entire planet seemed to have gotten together as one. Because it was there was an attack on the planet. It wasn't an attack on the United States or Wakanda or whatever. Like it was an attack on the planet. And now having that flipped back and to go backwards on that, like you would want them to, like, no, this should be the time that we actually become like Earth and not America. So I'm like being willing to explore some of the surrounding stuff of this, I think is really, really cool.
Yeah, agreed. And they got that Secret Invasion. Series coming up, so we're gonna get, that's a good way to throw in a Hulkling.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
they want to throw in a Hulkling, and I think they can probably just ditch Iron Lad, even though like he's I think like a Kang the Conqueror, the son of Kang the Conqueror or something like that, and Kang the Conqueror is the villain of the third Ant-Man movie. So it's all coming together,
and they've got that Armor War series announced, so like presumably some shit's gonna happen over there. I'm so leery of all of the Secret Wars stuff because there's all the weird. Nick Fury isn't actually Nick Fury. He's the Skrull from Captain Marvel movie, and has been for since at least Civil War or whatever. Like the amount of like, oh, actually, the Tony Stark that died was actually a Skrull. I'm like, please don't do a lot of that. I can't stand, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't want to, Captain America was a Skrull. Like, now he says Hell Hydra. Like, I just don't want to get into a lot of that bullshit.
No, I think that they won't have to start tapping that stuff too hard. And I've got a modicum of trust. Like, I'm leery about it as well, but I just, they haven't done the obvious shitty thing too many times yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like where it's like, oh, this would be the obvious thing and it would fucking suck.
Yeah.
They've not stepped on that landmine fairly regularly, fairly consistently, managed to avoid that. So I have some modicum of faith. And also like, I'll just watch it because it's out and I'm curious, I don't need to like stake my life on it. I'm not betting my, taking out an insurance policy that it'll be good, that all this stuff will be good. It's just like, one of the things that's funny about MCU discourse is people act like they're being asked to like do a Herculean labor.
Yeah.
And it's really just, you're like asking me to watch a movie. I'm good. Like that's not too big of a lift, my friend.
Yeah, I watch movies all the time. It's okay.
Yeah. Like if this ends up not being like, a life-changing experience, I think I'll be all right.
I sent a tweet to you of somebody retweeted into my timeline. It was like, oh man, keeping up with all of this MCU stuff is starting to feel like homework. And I'm like, well, then you shouldn't fucking do it, dog. Like homework sucks.
Yeah, you're a grown adult.
Yeah. You don't have to.
It's 45 minutes a week.
Yeah. I mean, like you could literally go on YouTube and watch a 4-minute video about everything that happened and like absorb all of the salient points if you really feel the need to like participate in the conversation. But also you just don't have to do it. Like I don't understand what and I think this is just a problem with social media, is that everybody thinks that they have to have an opinion on everything that happens. So especially big stuff that comes from Marvel or Disney nowadays, because it is so huge. But like, you can just not watch it. It's totally cool. Who cares?
It's okay to opt out.
Yeah.
So that's our message.
Yeah.
It's okay to opt out.
Don't watch it. Yeah. Don't watch it. Don't play it.
Yeah. Don't buy it.
Don't buy it.
Don't watch it is our message. I think if you dig this stuff, you should watch it. It's fun.
I do too.
If you don't dig it though, don't force yourself. We will be back next time with something.
Yeah. We have not announced it yet because we have not decided yet. Gary we're exploring. We're a little bit ahead. Gary is forcing me to do 4 things, and I have to choose from one of them. No, I'm kidding. That's not true. We just haven't. We have not put our heads together long enough. We've both been distracted with real world stuff. So we have not put our heads together to decide. But watch social media. My Twitter is @JGGreer. The Twitter for the podcast is @DUFC Podcast. You can find Gary at Gary Buh, and watch those 3 channels, and you will find out what's going to happen on this podcast at some point. So.
and support the show at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Tell your friends, leave ratings and reviews. All those things are appreciated.
We haven't done a feedback episode in some time, but we still collect that stuff. So if you want to send feedback about the Brood Saga, any of the number 1 issues that we did, your experience with those 90s comics, if you want to talk about the Falcon the Winter Soldier MCU, daysoffuturecast.com/contact is a place to do that, or you can just DM us on Twitter. I don't know when we'll do that, probably after our next big series, but if you have thoughts now, go ahead and send them in. I collect them and I save them to whenever we will do a feedback episode. So, yeah.
Umbasa.
Patreon.com/DuckFeedTV. We love you. Bye.